Hey guys, Joshua from City Champs. I'm here with Kurt. We're going to do our curriculum, so you can always go back to it in case it's been a while since you taught a class. All right, week 3, we're going to work on shrimping. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy, you know what shrimping is. If not, what it is trying to get our hips and all of our weapons. 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 weapons. You could count the head as 5 if you're like Kurt and you have an ugly dome. I try to keep my head out of it. Anyway, so we're gonna, we got taken down, but we're gonna use our hips to get back into a position where we can defend ourselves. And it's called shrimping in jiu-jitsu. All right, so Kurt takes me down. Okay, right, pause for a second. I'm gonna try to escape my hips away from him if I can escape and I can stand up, awesome. If not, and we'll learn this when we get to Kurt's time, we're gonna shrimp our hips out and then face our opponent so we can start utilizing our legs and creating distance this way, okay? So here's how we're gonna teach shrimping. What we're gonna do is we're gonna have the child lay down on their back at first, okay? We're gonna plant the leg. In this scenario, I'm just gonna plant my right leg, okay? The left leg is just kind of hanging out there, okay? With that right leg planted as close to the butt as possible, we're going to rotate onto the left shoulder. If it were the left leg that was planted, I would rotate onto the right shoulder. So it's opposite. Plant close to your butt, get up onto that left shoulder. Okay? You'll notice my hands, my elbows are currently close to my body, as if there was an opponent that I was trying to push off and get all my weapons to face them. Okay? At this point, we're going to use this leg to raise our hips, okay? And then I'm going to make myself into like a human L or C and escape my hips away. And then I can straighten back out. From a different angle, we're planting that leg close to our butt, rotating onto the opposite shoulder, okay? Utilizing that leg to lift up. You see now there's space there, all right? Now I'm going to escape my hips in this direction, making myself a City Champs C. Just like that, okay? Once we made ourselves into this, we escaped our hips, just straighten back, and we can do it again. Plant, roll onto the opposite side, raise our hips, escape our hips. That's called shrimping, and that's what we cover in week 3.
All right, guys, we're into week 3. We're back on the ground. We're going to show you some basic position to kind of be safe on the ground if your opponent is still standing, how to move on the ground, and how to kick from the ground, and then finally how to safely get back up to your feet. Okay, so first off, I'll show you a couple of different angles on this. So a lot of reasons you can put it into context why you end up on the ground, especially from doing the jiu-jitsu side. We've talked about some of those reasons. You get pushed to the ground, maybe you slip and fall. All kinds of different, maybe you get punched and you get knocked to the ground. A lot of reasons why you could end up here, but once you're there, you gotta be able to defend yourself. So if I'm on my back, have the kids kind of start out with on their back, both feet on the ground. First thing, bring your hands up towards your face. These kids they don't have a lot of body conditioning yet, so a lot of times they'll relax, you know, and they'll lay down like this, and that's not a good way to stay in a defensive position. You kind of got to be in that sit-up, half sit-up position. A lot of times they'll put their hands behind their heads like this too. Surprisingly, I didn't see a lot of professional fighters do this in the cage, and it's not necessarily the best way to protect yourself. So keep your hands up in front of your face, keep in that half sit-up position, and then you're going to take one leg. In this case, I'll take my right leg, and I'm going to pull my knee. I call it chambering the kick, because you're going to pull that knee very close to your body. The bottom of your foot should be pointed at your opponent. Things to think about, kids are going to do this. They're going to drop that foot, they're going to get lazy. So eventually this is going to become a kick, and the only way this kick is effective if it starts from here. So if they get lazy like this, it takes another step, it takes more time to re-chamber and then kick. So this is your good position, knee is chambered, hands are up, heads are off the ground. So now once we're on the ground, we know how to be in a good defensive position. We may have to move because the person that we're up against in this scenario is on their feet still. They're certainly going to be using that advantage to move around. So I'm in my position where my knee is chambered, my bottom of my foot is pointed at my opponent, My hands are up, my head's off the ground. Okay, from here, if Josh gets past this leg, right, if he gets past this leg, look how close his feet are to my face now, right? He can soccer kick me, he can go knee to belly, he can do all kinds of things, start using his grappling against me. So it's very important I try to keep my legs between myself, my vulnerable areas like my head, and my opponent. So we talked about this before. If this leg gets lazy, right now Josh is thinking about that. He's got to figure out how to get past that. If he comes in too close, boom, he gets kicked, okay? But if he sees his leg get lazy, now it's not a threat. It gives him that second just to step, and he can come around that leg very easy. So very important we keep that chambered. If he starts moving to that direction, my right, I'm going to use my bottom foot as a rudder to steer. If Josh moves to the left, I got to switch my feet. Now use my right foot as a rudder. Again, to try to keep him between my vulnerable areas and him. Okay, so that's movement. I have the kids work on that, go different ways, make them work. Part of self-defense is getting in shape. You know, all things being equal, the person who's in a little better shape has a little bit of an edge. So this is a good way to condition kids as well. All right, so we know how to be in a defensive position on the ground. We know how to move on the ground. Now we need to know how to kick from the ground, because eventually I want to get back up to my feet. Even if you're a good jiu-jitsu player, you're very good on the ground. In a self-defense situation, you always want to, at some point, extract yourself from it. Okay, and I've never known anybody that can run when they're on the ground. So we got to get back to our feet. So first, I got to be able to drive him away. So in this situation, if you're holding a pad for a kid, and again, I don't recommend kids holding for each other. We're just not ready for that yet. I don't want kids to kick until they see a target, and that goes for any striking. Don't throw a punch, don't throw a kick, don't do anything unless there's a target. If he's out there right now, I don't have a target, so there's no point in me kicking. And every time I throw that kick, I'm vulnerable. If I miss, it's easy for him to step around to the side. So also very important after you kick is to recoil that kick back into that chambered position that we talked about. So as a pad holder, make sure you're close enough where the kid's actually going to have a good target that they can kick. Make sure the kid doesn't kick until you're back in position. Because if they kick really hard, they can hyperextend their knee. So having the kid understand distance and managing that distance is also part of the training. So I maybe start out with having the kids kick 50%, 75%. So maybe here, nice leg kicks, hitting with the heel and the bottom of the foot. So maybe have them throw a few of those, recoiling the kick. Notice what I'm doing too, when that kick comes out and I strike, watch what happens to my hips, because guess where the power comes from? Our hips, right? So when that kick, I'm not just kicking here, I'm actually getting my heel so it's in line with my hip. So my hips come up off the ground. So that creates a straight line between my hip and my heel. What does that mean? It means I get more power. Watch what happens with my hands when I kick those. So when he comes in, my hands got to come down because I create a platform with my elbows so I can kick. One of two things are going to happen. If it's a strong kick, he may go backwards, which will give me room to stand up. If he's much bigger than me and he plows in and I kick and pushes me backwards, that's okay too, because that's still creating space. Okay? That's what this kick is about. It's about creating space between you and the attacker to give you time to get up. One kick probably isn't going to do it. It could take multiple kicks. It could take multiple targets. So different areas we can kick. You can talk about kicking to the groin. You can talk about kicking to the stomach. If he bends down to grab you, you can talk about kicking to the face. You can even kick to the knee. Okay? Obviously, you can talk about that in context, but for the drill itself, you want him kicking to the pad. That's kicking from the ground. Okay, final part of week 3 is getting up to our feet. So after we use that kick to create some space between ourselves and the attacker, that's our window of opportunity to get back up to our feet and either take the fight to our other skills, our stand-up skills, or use that opportunity to run away. Okay? So if I'm here, let's say I throw that kick, I drive my opponent back. This gives me an opportunity to sit up. Two things happen when I sit up. My opposite hand of the foot that kicked, so in this case my right foot kicked, my left hand's going to come up to protect my face. The right hand is going to come to the mat because I'm going to use this to push my weight up off the ground. Very important, if you look at my hand, it's not pointed straight back. what that does is it locks my elbow out. So if that opponent were to come crashing back into me, my elbow is gonna hyperextend more than likely. I could very well break my arm. Okay, so what I want to do is kind of keep my hand at an angle. So if he does crash into me, that elbow collapses. Okay, and I protect my elbow. So I'm going to put my hand down of the foot that just kicked. Same hand goes to the ground. Opposite hand comes up to put a barrier between me and the attacker. From there, I push my weight up off the ground, and then that kicking foot comes underneath, all the way back, and I get up to my feet. Okay, this is very important because by getting up this way, I'm always keeping my eye on the attacker. I'm not just rolling up this way, which leaves me very exposed, takes my eyes off the attacker. Rather, I'm kicking and always keeping something between me and the attacker. Same way on the other side. I kick, come up, and get to my feet. And then I'm in my fighting stance. And that's it for week 3. We'll see you in week 4.